most likely needs more room for its roots to grow. So thankfully yesterday when I visited my mom, she gifted me this big pot plant. And so the goal today is to somehow repot it from there to here. Before I do that, I'm just gonna give it some TLC because I noticed its leaves are actually really dusty. I just blame this on New York because there's so much dust here, even though we barely even open our windows. So, I will tell you the funny story of how my mom ended up with that big pot. My mom loves plants even more than I do. And she had that big pot because she was hoping to plant a tree. But unfortunately for her, the tree was not growing. And so she decided to just take the pot outside of her apartment and just clear some space from her apartment because the pot was taking up a lot of space. And while the pot was outside, I guess, the wind brought in a seed into the pot because randomly a plant started growing. And my mom, being the hilarious person that she is, looked up the plant that was growing and decided that it was edible. And the plant grew pretty big, actually. And because she thought that it was edible, she just ate it. She just ate the whole plant. I can't even remember what she said the plant was. But I feel like I just wouldn't have risked it, But she enjoyed eating her plant. Oh yeah, look how dusty that is. Oh, poor little plant. So she enjoyed eating her plant, and after she finished eating it, she just had no more use for that big pot. So when I mentioned that one of my plants needed to be repotted, she suggested I just take that big pot from her, which was super convenient because my other choice would have been to go all the way to maybe Home Depot or IKEA and get another pot. I think probably only places that big would sell the size pot I needed. Okay, now that our plant is all dusted, what I'm gonna do enough coverage for the floor so that I don't make that big of a mess. I'll probably still have to clean and vacuum afterwards, but hopefully not that much. Okay, so I actually think one of my first jobs is going to be to take a lot of soil from the big blue pot out, because otherwise I don't think the plant will fit in. I didn't really have any idea of how to do it. But I remember I had this big Halloween bucket for Halloween candy, and so I think I'm just gonna scoop it in here to hold. I don't really have anything better to scoop this with, so I'm just gonna use this little plastic container where my mushrooms came in. Okay, my idea of the blue plastic container was not working really well, so I grabbed something more sturdy. Just one of the bowls from my kitchen. I think my husband doesn't like when I use kitchen utensils to do plant stuff, but I'll make sure to wash it really well. Okay, that should be enough. I don't know if you can tell from there, but right at the bottom of this big pot, my mom had put some rocks, some pebbles, just to help with drainage. let's move this to the side and this to the middle and bring our big plant. Okay, so I was sort of hoping that I could just pull it up by the stem or trunk, and that it would come out fully. So let's try that. Oh yeah, oh that's definitely gonna be easier than I thought. Okay, that's good. This is gonna be very messy probably, but I'll try to do it quick. Okay. Okay, that was easier than I thought. You can see how in here I also had a lot of rocks for drainage. I heard that it's good to do that when you don't have holes at the bottom of your pot. Okay, let's add some soil back in. I watched a lot of videos where people said that when repotting a plant, it's best to use a pot that has about 2 inches of space between it and your plant's roots. And I think this is probably about that, so it's just perfect. I also watched a lot of repotting videos where the gardeners or the people repotting were sort of like releasing the roots instead of just like putting the whole plant in like I did. They would like just take out as much soil from the old soil as they could and just release the roots. But honestly, I'm quite afraid of doing that because I don't want to accidentally hurt the roots of the plant, you know. So I saw that in the comments a lot of people were asking about it, and they were saying, you know, it'll grow just fine, you know. So I was like, okay, I'll just do that because I'm too afraid to bother the roots. I'm starting to think that this will be too heavy for me to carry back to where it needs to be. So just leave it here for my loving husband to find so that when he comes back, he can just move it himself. Yesterday I could barely carry the pot with the soil, just with the soil by itself, not even no plant or anything, and I could barely carry it. But also, don't think that I'm that weak. It's just that, like I showed you, there's a lot of rocks at the bottom of this pot as well to help it with drainage. So it's not that I'm that weak, it's just it's that heavy. Okay, I'm actually not liking the quality that much of the soil that's at the bottom here. I think it's because the one at the bottom here was the first layers of soil I took out from the pot, and those had already like dried out quite a bit. It's looking a little like sand more than soil, if you know what I mean. So I think I'm gonna take out my soil bag. Okay, friends, this bag makes a lot of noise, but I just wanted to show you I have a bit of Miracle Grow potting mix left over from another gardening project. So I think that's what I'm going to use just to top off the plant here. The other gardening project that I used this for was actually planting lettuce with my students. By now, you probably know that I'm a teacher, and one of the science/social studies units that we do is a farm-to-table unit where we talk about the process that food takes to get from the farm to our table. And alongside this unit, I plant lettuce with my kids so that at the end of the unit we can make a recipe with our own used to garden a lot with my dad. Growing up, he was lucky enough to live in a place where he had a decent size front porch, and he always had a lot of plants. I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but my dad was a farmer for most of my life. He had a farm where I think it was mostly a dairy farm. So he had a lot of cows, and he would sell to different dairy stores around the community. Like there was a cheese store, and there was a little milk company that would always buy from him. Okay, this is looking great. I think I'm just gonna tidy my area a bit, and then maybe I'll see if I'm strong enough to place this where it belongs by myself. I think it's a little tilted too. Let me put more pressure on this side. And so, I was saying my dad was a farmer, and because he was a farmer, I think he also instilled in me a lot of like respect for nature and for, animals and our environment. I also think that gardening is actually really good for you, because I was watching a documentary about blue zones with my husband, and if you don't know, a blue zone is a place on Earth where there's a lot of centenarians, people who make it to 100 years old. And these blue zones are all over the world. There's I can't remember how many there are, but I know for sure there's like one in Asia and one in Europe. And so something that researchers have been wanting to do is analyze what similarities they can find in these areas, that even though they're so far apart, they share the commonality that people in these places are able to live such long and healthy lives, because that's the thing, right? I'm sure most people want a long life, but no one wants to make it to like 100 if you're just going to be like, like plugged into an oxygen tank or bed bound, right? Okay, now it's looking more even, because I think the trunk was looking a little uneven there for a bit. And something that they noticed in these blue zones is that people remain active until way late into their lifetime. And one of the activities that they noticed a lot of these centenarians do is gardening. It's still being active, even if it's not being at the gym, lifting weights. Okay, friends, I think I'm done repotting. I think the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to water it. So help me fill up my water can. Okay, friends, let's fill up my water can. Okay, let's give it a lot of water. Okay, that should be enough. Okay, friends, I think I am done with the repotting process. The only thing I'm going to do is tidy up my area a bit, but that might make too much noise, so I won't show you that. But I will make sure to end this video by showing you what our cute rubber plant looks like back in our spot in the living room. Okay, friends, here I am showing you what our rubber plant looks like now. Originally, the rubber plant was sitting on the windowsill right here, but because it grew so tall that it was touching the ceiling, we have since moved it to this little coffee table. As you can tell, it has almost reached the ceiling again. So I'm guessing in a few months we may have to just move the pot to the floor, just like we do with our, is this a monstera? I think that's the name. But it still has so much more room to grow. Okay, friends, I think our rubber plant is looking really good in its new pot. Thank you so much for accompanying me because I repotted